Assalamu alaikum. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Introduction to English Literature. So this is the sixth recorded lecture of this semester. We talked about so many literary themes and characters and texts. We started with the Renaissance. We talked about the Renaissance, the factors, the four factors of the Renaissance, and then we talked about William Shakespeare, not in detail because we don't have time to talk about Shakespeare, but there's a lot to say about William Shakespeare and the, the importance of William Shakespeare. And then we talked about his histories, his kings, how he depicts kings differently, and how some of them are strong, others are weak, some are clever, some of them are not so clever, and so on. Today, we will talk about his tragedies and comedies. So, this lecture will be a little bit long, a little bit full of information and full of entertainment because we will talk about his best works, the best works of William Shakespeare. And next time, we'll still also talk about Shakespeare. And as I said, as I always say, we'll never be done with William Shakespeare and his amazing masterpieces, but we will just take hints from here and there about his most important works. So before we start, let's remember the difference between a tragedy and a comedy. We said that there are three main types of plays by William Shakespeare: the histories that we talked about last time, and then we have the tragedies and the comedies. So we said that the main difference between them is the end, how they end. Now, there are differences in the structure, in the language, in the characters, but the main difference is how they end. The tragedy ends always in tragedy. Uh, the tragic hero dies. Maybe most of the people, most of the main characters die. It ends in a way, in a sad way. Sometimes there is hope for the future, but still, for the main characters, it ends sadly, tragically. However, in the comedy, it almost always ends happily, sometimes with marriage or with I don't know what. So it ends happily, at least for the main characters. This is for the comedies and the tragedies. But there are some similarities, or at least let's say not a comedy, as I said last time, does not necessarily mean funny. Yes, it has some humor elements here and there, but it can be serious, as serious as a tragedy. Um, so today, let's start with we'll talk about the four major tragedies, Shakespeare's comedies, at least The Merchant of Venice, and then his final plays. And we'll talk about Shakespeare today, how Shakespeare is still important to this very day, 4 centuries after his death. So let's start with his four major tragedies. So Shakespeare wrote approximately 10 tragedies. Four of them are more important, more famous. Now, you might um, all know, everyone, every single person on this universe knows Romeo and Juliet. So it's a tragedy, but it's not one of the four major tragedies. I'm saying this to remind you that yes, these are the four major tragedies, the most important tragedies or works by Shakespeare, as the critics believe. But this does not mean that the other tragedies are less important. They are also important and famous, but these are more because they are new. They discuss their themes and their topics in ways that not everyone can do. Only William Shakespeare, the great one and only William Shakespeare. Okay, so the four major tragedies are, as some of you might know, Hamlet. We talked about Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, and Macbeth. Maybe we talked about Hamlet. Maybe some of you are familiar with King Lear, especially if they were Adabi. They studied King Lear in Tawjihi. And then we have Othello and and Macbeth. Those are the major Shakespearean tragedies. And the themes are serious themes and also important and complicated themes that everyone has to think about at least um, once in a while, at certain time in his life. The themes are revenge, jealousy, family, and ambition. Basically, those are the four most important themes. But yes, Hamlet is mainly about revenge, but it also has family. The family is important in Hamlet. So yes, it is about revenge, but family is there. Othello, yes, is about jealousy, but we have ambition. And also, by the way, we have revenge and family in Othello, the four of them, but mainly jealousy because it's what drives Iago. King Lear is about family, but also there are other things. Also, Macbeth is about ambition, but there is revenge and family, of course, in Macbeth. So the themes are serious: see, revenge, jealousy, family, ambition, serious themes, but they also discuss sensitive, controversial um, topics, uh, like modern thought. See, we talked about Hamlet, the prince, the secular university guy who has to deal with ghosts, with revenge, with things from the past. So this modern thought, this question of the humanity of the modern human, to be or not to be, and race and racism. You know what is race and what is racism? Uh, Othello discusses racism in a way that is very important. This is one of the reasons why Othello is very important to this very day. So the those tragedies and basically a tragedy in general, especially those four tragedies, um, discuss this fact of the human being, the man who tries to achieve, to overachieve, to reach to perfection, to harmony, because everyone wants to reach to perfection. This is what drives the humanity. This is what makes the humanity develops. But sometimes in this journey to reach perfection, man goes beyond the limits, beyond his limits. Sometimes man tries to be more than a man, to do things that humans cannot do. And because the universe, because the world is not perfect, it is not, there's no harmony, or sometimes at least it lacks harmony. Sometimes we see destruction in a way that is not, um, that you cannot justify. We see death, sudden death, here and there. Like this week, the social media, everyone's talking about Jordanian influencer Aboud. I don't know what's his name. I don't know him, but everyone's talking about him because he died suddenly. So this world lacks perfection. Things like this, haphazard things, meaningless things happen in a minute that you cannot expect or predict. And because this world is not perfect, and those heroes, those tragic heroes, tries to reach perfection in a way that goes beyond their limits, they always fail. And the tragedies are mainly about failure. We talked when remember in the first introduction lecture when we talked about the importance of literature. We said that it talks about our failures, and this is why it's important because it makes us familiar, and tragedies are mainly about failures, about how the hero fails in his attempt to reach perfection, to go beyond his limits. Now, in Macbeth, we talked about Othello. In Macbeth is about ambition again. And this Macbeth, I don't want to spoil the story, to tell all the story. Read it or read about it or watch it. It's there in the internet. But Macbeth i- is told at the beginning of the play that he will become a king. Three witches come and tell him that you will become a king. And then he believes this and he tells his wife, Lady Macbeth, and lots of things happen. Uh, but the main thing is that he thinks, okay, so they told me that I'll become a king. So let's kill the king in order to become the. How can I become the king? And there's a king. Let's kill the king. And he starts by killing and then he kills another. So then he starts killing people, and his wife pushed him to do this or encouraged him to do this. And then at the end of the play, I don't want to spoil it again, but at the end of the play, he receives the news of her death, and then but he's like, خلاص, he lost his hope. He realized the meaningless of life, that everything he has done, that all the murders he committed went for nothing. And then he says, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And then this is one of the most famous Shakespearean lines. And then this amazing extract out, brief candle, life's a but life's but a walking shadow. Life is nothing, it's a lie, it's a walking shadow, it's a shadow. A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage. It's only 1 hour. Life is like theater. It's a walking shadow. A poor player, you know what is a player? Player can mean a player, a football player, or a basketball. It could means a musician, player, and it could mean an actor on stage. So a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is had no more. So what is life? It's like the player. He goes for an hour. He talks, he struts and frets, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Life is meaningless. It means nothing. It's a tale. Life is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, but signifying nothing. So this is Macbeth. See this. I don't know what to describe it. This very important extract by Macbeth, and this is tragedies. So always there is this in the tragedies. There is this contrast, this competition between pessimism and hope. You know, pessimism, uh, the opposite of hope. Okay, so almost all of the tragedies end in pessimism. Everyone dies, end in despair, and life has no meaning. And because everyone is dead, everyone realizes his foolishness, his mistakes or her mistakes. But usually there's a happy there's this um small room for hope, not happiness, but slight of hope. Like almost always it's about a new generation, a new king. Like in Hamlet, it ends with everyone dead, but then there is this new king, which gives hope, a new young and wise and courageous king, which gives hope. This also happens in Macbeth. And in a way, not a new king, but in a way, in Othello, it happens this hope at the end of the play after everyone is dead and all the sad events. But between all the tragedies, critics say that there is one play that is the most pessimistic, the most sad, gloomy play, which is King Lear, because at the end there is no hope. You know King Lear, most of you are familiar with King Lear. You know King Lear wanted to dispute his power and his lands to his three daughters, General Regan and Cordelia, and he asked them um, to tell him how much to express their love to him, and then he will give them land. And then General and Regan started to told him how much they love him and everything, and then he gave them land. But Cordelia, the poor Cordelia, uh, even her name, Cordelia from heart, uh, she loves him truly, and but she's honest. She's not like her sisters. So she tells him that she loves him um, as much as any daughter loves her beloved father. And then after what he heard from her sisters, he disowned her, or he disowns her, this Cordelia. So long story short, most of you know the story. Those who don't have to read about it, because it is amazing. It is important. At the end, after he realizes his mistake, after disowning his daughter, um, and now she's dead after at the end of the play, and then he goes with this touching, sad lament. Remember lament? No, no, no life. Why should a dog, a horse, a rat have life, and thou no breath at all? Thou wilt come no more, never, 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 never. Remember thou? Thou means you. Thou'lt means you will. So he's questioning life, the meaning of life. Why a dog, a horse, a rat? Why these creatures have life and you, thou, no breath at all, nothing, not even a breath, not a single breath, dead. You will come no more. You will never come back. He's sad and questioning life in a way or another. This is King Lear. Now, okay. Now, Othello, uh, from the very beginning, the harmony is lost. This Othello is a black guy. The Moor is mentioned as the Moor at the beginning of the play. Is a black guy who was Muslim and converted to Christianity. The play starts when he's one of the most courageous, the strongest leaders in the army, and he married the most beautiful lady in Venice, the most beautiful lady, but she's white and he's black, and he's in a way um, the best guy out there in Venice. Everyone loves him because he's courageous, because he defends them. He leads the army and everything. But then her father does not want him to marry her because he's black. She's white. Even though he loves him, he admires him as a leader. But now, when he knows that he wants to marry his daughter, he does not want. And so many events in the story, in the play. You have also to watch Othello. Watch Othello. There are a lot of TV shows and uh, performances of Othello. You can find them online. Othello in the play, to describe this state, um, how harmony is lost, the loss of harmony. He says, "Chaos is come again." You know, chaos. Nothing is in its place. Nothing is a chaos is come again. To describe this uh, loss of harmony, this lack of harmony in the play, and the whole play. See this picture. This is Iago. Iago is the antagonist. You know, the protagonist is the hero, and the antagonist is the one who fights the hero. The conflict between Oz, the protagonist, and the antagonist. So Iago, this is Iago. He's the antagonist, and he makes lots of plots. In a way, he is the director of. He's the writer of the play, not William Shakespeare. He He directs everything in the play and controls everyone. And the only reason, or at least the main reason, why he uh, does all the crimes he does is because he hates Othello. And why? Because he's a Moor. Because he is a Moor. Because he's black. Because of his origin. Because of his color. And he wants to stop. There's more to know about this other than racism, but and racism, jealousy, and ambition or revenge are the most important themes in the play. So um, I don't want to spoil this again. Watch it or read it. It is very important, and especially because it discusses racism, and one of them involved is Othello, a Muslim, and originally a Muslim, an Arabic, a Moor. You know Moor from North Africa. And you know what is racism, guys? Racism, to hate people, to treat people differently, to discrimination to between people only because of their origin, because of their color, because of their language, because of their country, because of their religion, and this is wrong. Racism is wrong, and every good person has uh, to avoid racism. Never allow yourself to be racist. Never allow your people that you love, your beloved people, to be racist. Never treat people based on their origin or their color or their country or their language. This is racism. Um, so many because I said Iago is the one who controls everything uh, and makes conspiracies here and there. So many critics consider him the hero, the main character, not Othello. But remember, we discussed the meaning of hero. What makes a hero a hero? We talked about this with Sir Gawain. We talked about this um, so many times in this uh, in this course, and we will talk about it more and more. What makes a hero? Can Iago be considered a hero? Yes, makes a lot of things in the play, but he's evil. He's racist, and the worst thing anyone can be is racist. Okay, so this is Othello. Now we're done with the major comedy tragedies. We talked about Hamlet before. We talked about Othello, King Lear, and Macbeth. But we just said I don't know, just few points about them. You have to read more about them, or watch them, or read them. Okay. Now let's talk. Let's move to the comedies, and especially the Merchant of Venice. Last time I talked about the Merchant of Venice, I told you the main plot of the Merchant of Venice. Antonio and Bassanio, who went to borrow money from Shylock, and Shylock gave them money. Um, at the beginning, he was like, "Okay, so you hate me, and you tell people to not borrow money from me, and you spit on me, and everything, and now you want my money, you want me to borrow you money. Okay, I will borrow because I'm a good guy." uh, but again, as we said, he made a contract, a weird contract, that if you don't if you don't pay your money back, um I'll have to take a pound of your flesh, a pound of the flesh, a pound of the flesh from you. And then when the time comes, Antonio's ships, he's told that his ships are destroyed in the sea and that he has no money. And Shylock was like, "Give me my money. I don't have money. My ships are destroyed." And then Shylock goes like, "Okay, let's go to the court. I want you a pound of your flesh." And then at the court, remember Bassanio wanted the money because he wanted to woo his love, his girlfriend, Portia, in Belmont. And then this Portia, this girl, this beautiful rich girl, uh, knows that his friend Antonio knows she knows the story and that Antonio gave him money from Shylock and now he will pay a pound of his flesh. Antonio Shylock will take a pound, a pound, uh, maybe half a kilo from his flesh. Uh, so Bassanio tells her, "Okay, stay here in Belmont. I will go to Venice to the court to see the court and the trial of my friend Antonio." But what happened? Now remember, in Shakespeare's times, women were not allowed to perform. Were not allowed to be actresses. So whenever there is a female character, a boy will dress like a woman and then he will perform. So see what happens here. This Portia disguise as a man, and not any man, a lawyer, and goes to the court. So now there is Portia, and there's a boy who plays the role of Portia. Now Portia plays the role of a lawyer, a man, a man, a young man. So this actor, a boy, who plays the role of a woman, who plays the role of a man. So can you see this? This is what Shakespeare does. He plays with everything. He makes fun of everything. And this Portia goes to the court, to the court, to the trial, and then she's like, okay, let me see the contract. Okay, is this you, Antonio? You wrote this. Yes, the contract is valid. Yes, give him money. I don't have money. Okay, and then she gives Shylock her speech of mercy. Have mercy on this guy. Take double the amount of uh, their 3,000 ducats. Take 6,000. Take 9,000 ducats. And then Shylock is like, no, no, I just want my pound of the flesh. I just want my pound of the flesh. He refuses to take it. Then she's like, okay, go take your pound of flesh. Because this is what the contract say, and I am a good lawyer. And then Shylock starts to praise her, and he thinks that she's a man, to praise him and everything. And then he sharpens his knife, and not with a belt, or no, he sharpens his knife with his boot in an ugly but moving scene. And then when he approaches Antonio to take his pound of flesh, she's like, stop. Now, before you take your pound of flesh, don't drop blood, because the contract does not say you're like the contract does not guarantee or does not allow you to make him bleed. So don't, and take a pound of flesh, not more and not less. A pound, an exact pound of the flesh. You're not allowed to take more or less. So Shylock is like, he's shocked by her clever defense. And he goes, okay, I don't want the pound of flesh. Give me triple the amount. Give me the 9,000 ducats. She's like, no, you refused it. Okay, give me double the amount. So 6,000 ducats. And she's like, okay, no, you refused to take it at first. Okay, just give me my 3,000 ducats. And then again, you refused. And he's like, okay, I don't want any money. I'll go back. خلاص, I don't want anything. And then when he about to leave, she's like, okay, stop, come back. Now the law says that if any alien, not Venetian, not from Venice, even though he's from Venice, but he's a Jew, so he's considered as an alien, a stranger, an outsider. So the law says that if any outsider intends to harm a Venetian, to kill a Venetian, he should lose his money, all his money. And then uh, the judge say that you lose half of your money, and the other half goes to Antonio. And Antonio, because he's the cute white Christian guy, he's not like Shylock. He's okay. I forgive him. I don't want his money, but instead he has to convert to Christianity. So at the end of the play, Shylock loses all his money and loses his religion and loses his honor. He loses everything. But it ends happily for Shylock, for Antonio, Bassanio, and Portia. This is why it's a comedy. It's not, but for Shylock, it's a tragedy. And why does he lose everything? Because of his. Why is he hated? Because of his religion. This is why this play discusses racism and especially anti-Semitism. You know anti-Semitism. This is anti-Semitism. It is written here anti-Semitism. Now, Semitism or Semite is from Sam. You know Sam, the son of Noah. We are the Arabs are the son of Sam in a way or another. So also we are Semites. But when you say anti-Semitism, you mean the hatred of Jews, hating Jews, only because they are Jews. Now we hate, or our enemies are the Israelis, as we said last time, the Zionists. But we don't hate Jews. We are Aslan Semites, right? We don't hate Jews because of this is wrong. You don't treat people, you don't deal with people based on their religion or based on their origin or their color or whatever, as we said. So hating Jews because they are Jews is anti-Semitism. See, this is anti-Semitism, and this play discusses anti-Semitism. Now, so many critics or so many people, so many readers say that Shakespeare himself is anti-Semitic because the way he portrayed Shylock, the way Shylock is treated in his play. However, others say no. Shylock is not Shakespeare is not anti-Semitism, not anti-Semitic, but he portrays the society, the English society that was anti-Semitic. Other critics say Shakespeare is anti-feminist. You know, anti-feminist, feminist um, is or feminism is the movement that calls for the equity, the equality of women. That women should have the rights, the same rights as men. Some critics say he's anti-feminist. Others say no, he's not anti-feminist, but he depicts the society that was anti-feminist. He describes his society that was, but he's not anti. So there is this. I want to hear your opinions. What do you think? Um, because of the way he portrayed Shylock, is he anti-Semitic or is he just describing the society that was anti-Semitic? Is he anti-feminist or he's describing the society? Because see, in Portia, she's a woman. Now, the society told the women that you cannot uh, be actresses, you cannot act on stage, you cannot be lawyers. But he made her the cleverest, and the most important character in the play. Okay, so um, as we said, this play is very complex. It's very complex, very complicated. It discusses so many issues, and most of them, all of them, are sensitive and controversial. Uh, especially the role of women and the Jews, in the European society in that time, the issues of anti-Semitism and the roles of women. Now, why is it comedy, not a tragedy? Again, because Christian characters, uh, the white Christian audience will identify with the white Christian characters. The audience of the play when it was written are white Christians, English, and they will identify with Antonio and Bassanio and Portia, not with Shylock. This is why it is a comedy, because for them it ends happily. The one who's punished is a Jew. Nobody cares about the Jew. Okay, but others now, especially now, consider it a serious comedy. or a tragicomedy, as we said last time, because it's not only comic, not only comedy, it is serious. The themes are serious, the events are serious and sometimes sad. This is one of the most important um, and famous lines by William Shakespeare from The Merchant of Venice. When people asked him, okay, but what do you want from his pound of flesh? What can anyone do with a pound of human flesh? It is not edible. You cannot eat it. You can't do anything with it. And he's like, to bait fish with it. I'll feed it to the fish. If it will feed nothing else, it will feed my revenge. He hath disgraced me, hindered me 500,000, laughed at my losses, mocked at my gains, scorned my nation, thwarted my bargains, schooled my friends, hated mine enemies. And what's his reason? Why did he do all of this? What's his reason? I am a Jew. Hath not a Jew eyes? Hath not a Jew hands, organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions, fed with the same food, hurt with the same weapons, subjected to the same diseases, healed by the same means, warmed and cooled by the same winter and summer, as a Christian is? He's like, we ate the same food. We are hurt by the same weapons. We're the same. We're humans. What's the difference between a Christian and a Jew? If you prick us, if you injure us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? If we are like you in the rest, if we are the same in all of this, if we are like you in the rest, we will resemble you in that. We will be like you in that. We will take revenge. If a Jew wrong a Christian, what is his humility? Revenge. If a Christian wrong a Jew, what should his sufferance be by Christian example? Why? Revenge. The same. Because when a Jew wrong a Christians, you take revenge. By the same example, imitating you, we have to take revenge. The villainy you teach me, I will execute. And it shall be hard, but I'll better the instruction. The villainy that you taught me in the villain to be villain. You taught me this hatred. You taught me to take revenge. So the villainy you teach me, I will execute. An amazing extract by Williams. I love this, and this is one of the reasons why I love The Merchant of Venice the most. This extract from. I want to again this and all the extracts that we studied. I want to see some of you next Monday uh, to recite them and see your the way you feel the text and you perform it. Because remember, Shakespeare's plays are meant to be heard, not read. So I want to hear you reciting these. Now, notice this from King Lear, no, no life, why should a dog a horse? And notice this from Macbeth, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. What's the difference between those and Shylock's speech? Now you can see in the form, every single line here starts with a capital letter. See, tomorrow, 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 and tomorrow. And this is not a new sentence, but still a capital, lives, but a walking shadow that struts. And so you see, why? Because this is poetry. This is how poetry, the form of poetry. It always starts, the first line starts with a capital letter. And there is music. The most important thing is that there is music. So in Shakespeare, almost always the characters, the important characters, talk in verse, in poetry. But some other characters, minor characters, villains, talk in prose. See, this is a prose. What is a prose? Like a paragraph. Prose. It's not verse. See, every line, it does not start with a capital letter. There's no music. It's just prose, just a paragraph. Right? We'll talk about this more next time. And as I said, remember when we discussed how to read Shakespeare, we said always pay attention to the pronouns, pay attention to the type of the text. Is it prose or verse? This is prose. This might be the most famous prose by William Shakespeare. Might be the most famous prose by William Shakespeare. Okay. Now, in Shakespeare comedies in general, so the Merchant of Venice or other comedies, the world is threatened and shaken. Everything there is disturbance. There is no there is a lack of harmony. But always, or almost always, the comedy ends happily. Everything is solved at the end of the play. And the themes and the issues of a comedy are not necessarily silly. They might be as serious as the themes of tragedies. Like in The Merchant of Venice, the themes are very serious, uh, maybe even more serious than some tragedies. And there's always in the Metropolitan, there's always mistaken identity. See, Portia, uh, and by the way, in the Mission of Venice, not only Portia disguised as a man, so many other characters, Nerissa and Shylock's daughter, uh, they they also disguise as boys, as men. So there's always the mistaken identity. The role of and in other plays, you cannot distinguish who is who. The role of women, like in the Merchant of Venice, jealousy, race. It's so many subjects in the comedies. These are some of them, themes and subjects. Uh, and they are still famous to this day. The comedies of Shakespeare. They have jokes here and there. Also, the Merchant of Venice, All Ends Well, all of them have jokes and comic action. But sometimes when you read the play, you cannot sense this comic action because, again, the plays are meant to be performed. When you see them, you can feel. Remember Mahmoud in the comments, Mahmoud Liazi said that one of the scenes from Richard II made him laugh only because the audience laughed. Why? Because of the actor, the way he acted the same um, speech that could make us cry in other scenes. Okay, so remember always, Shakespeare, his plays are meant to be staged, not read. Staged, performed. Um, Okay, so now let's quickly talk about the final plays, the last plays that Shakespeare wrote before his retirement. Timon of Athens. This is a tragedy that discusses the hatred for humankind. I don't want to talk in detail about this, but you just have to know it. Generally, in his last plays, hope would be restored at the end of the play. There's always hope at the end of the play. This is his way of telling us, I don't know, sending us his retirement message that there is hope at the end. It's usually connected to a younger generation, the hope at the end of the plays. Um, Critics call them sometimes the final plays, other times serious comedies, problem plays, pastoral comedies. Not very important for this course, but you just have just to know to have a background, a general idea about these things. Now, the Tempest is one of his final plays. Maybe the last one, or maybe there's Henry the Eighth. Remember Henry the Eighth? After he talked about Henry the Eighth, the one who changed the religion. I remember every time now I remember Henry the Eighth. I remember the meme that you made about Henry the Eighth. So the tempest, you know what is the tempest? The tempest, the storm. It means the storm. The tempest. Um, the tempest is the whole idea is giving back harmony to the universe, to the world, putting everything in its place. But the play starts with Prospero. Prospero is the guy who is in an island, an isolated island, for 16 years. Why? Because his brother, the king, uh, sent them there and stole his kingdom. Okay, so he was the king, but his brother stole his kingdom and isolated him in an island for 16 years. And now Prospero, this guy, is a man of learning. He uses magic. He uses magic. Why? Why does he use magic? Because he wants to restore his kingdom, to get his kingdom back. And now, who's his enemy? His enemy is Caliban. Now, read the play or watch it or read about it. But our important point here that we have to discuss is the point made by the Palestinian critic, famous critic Edward Said. You know Edward Said, he's a Palestinian critic, a famous Palestinian. He was at some time a leader in the PLO, in the Palestinian Liberation Organization, and he's one of the Palestinian critics. He's the most important and famous Palestinian critic ever, and one of the political leaders at some point of his life. You have to know about Edward Said. Now, Edward Said in his books was obsessed with colonialism. We talked about colonialism, and he was obsessed with post-colonialism. What's after the world after colonialism? And in this play, he showed how literature was connected to colonialism, how literature uh, implanted colonialism in the minds of Europeans, the white European public audience. So in this play, The Tempest, see even the word Prospero. Now, this guy goes to the island uh, for 16 years as an isolated island that has nobody in it. But actually, it has people. It's native people in the island, like Caliban. But he's the good guy in the play. He goes there, he's sent there to fight them. Uh, okay, the people and who are who are shown in the play as evil people, the evil spirit of nature, even though they are the owners of the land. They own the land. They are the original people there, the natives. And this is exactly colonialism. This is exactly what happened in America when they went. The Europeans, the white Europeans, went in America and claimed that it is empty. And this is what happened to us in Palestine when they came to Palestine, claiming that it's empty. It has no people, a land with no people, for people with no land. Remember this false accusation, this false statement? This is what happened to us. And this is the white mentality, the European white mentality. They come to us claiming that uh, they are coming with prosperity. You know, prosperity. Even his name Prospero, from prosper, prosperity. You know what's prosperity? Prosperity is wealth. Remember Trump, the late the ex-president of the United States, with his deal of the century. What was the actual name of the deal of the century? What did he call it? He called it peace and prosperity. Peace and prosperity. Al-salam wal-izdihar. Something like this. So he is bringing us peace and prosperity. How? He's taking our land and giving it to the Zionists, to the white Europeans, and this is how he's bringing peace and prosperity. The exact that happened 400 years ago in Shakespeare's The Tempest. Prospero went to the island to bring it prosperity. So even the word, okay, the word Caliban, where is it coming from? Caliban, his enemy, the native of the island. It's coming from cannibal. You know, cannibal. Cannibal is the person who eats human flesh. This is a cannibal. You hear about them, cannibal. You know, about familiar with the word cannibal. Cannibal is the one who eats human flesh. So Caliban from cannibal and Prospero from prosperity, from prosper. This is called anagram when you reorganize the words to make a new word. So even in the names, even in the choice of the names, there is something that Edward Said called an allegory of imperialism. An allegory, allegory. So this play is an allegory, a symbol for imperialism and colonialism, because it makes people. So you see, Prospero is the white occupier. The land is our lands. It's a symbol of our lands, and Caliban is a symbol of the native people. So this is an allegory of. There are allegories of political allegories, like Animal Farm or etc. So an allegory. This is an allegory of imperialism, the Tempest. See how literature is amazing, because you read something, then you go deeper and you find other things. You always find layers of meanings. There is one layer on the surface that you read, everyone read, and then go. But we go deeper. We find that there are other layers. Always there are other layers. Even in the name Prospero, the name Caliban, there is meaning we can find, and this is why literature is amazing. Now, Prospero's daughter um, and Ferdinand get married, and then at the end of the play, and sorry, بطارية اللابتوب. And then um, at the end, Prospero reminds the audience that the play is unreal. He says, "We are such as dreams are made on." Why? Remember, this is one of Shakespeare's lastest or latest plays. So Shakespeare is reminding the audience that these plays are unreal. We are such as dreams. Those plays are dreams. Okay? So the question of dream, and Shakespeare always does this, confuse the audience between reality, and this happens in Hamlet, by the way. Um, and in so many plays, Shakespeare always confuses the audience. Is this reality? Is the character talking to the audience or talking to the other characters? So fiction and reality, the relationship between them. And the final speech in the play for Prospero, when he gave up his magic powers, he says, "Now my charms, the charm, the magic, now my charms are all overthrown." Some people, so many people love to read this as Shakespeare's farewell. Shakespeare saying goodbye. Now my charms, as if Shakespeare is talking, not Prospero. Now my charms are all overthrown. My charms, my poetic skill, my ability, me as a writer, my charms are all overthrown. Now I have said everything. I've wrote everything. Now my charms are all overthrown. This is the Tempest, and this is so many people love to read this as Shakespeare's farewell, saying goodbye. Okay. Now, as I said, Shakespeare always confused the audience um, between reality and fiction, because Shakespeare himself was not only a playwright, he was an actor. So he played roles in the play. So he will write the play and then will play will be an actor in the play, will be a role. He'll be one of the characters. So the theatrical metaphor is when metaphor الصورة أو الاستعارة. The theatrical metaphor is comparing the world to the theater and the theater to the world. See this amazing and famous extract by William Shakespeare. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. All the world is a stage, and all the men and women, شوف amazing, men and women, everyone, men and women merely players, even though women were not players at that time. But see, Shakespeare, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They are merely actors. They have their exits and their entrances. They exit from some place and enter some place. And one man in his time plays many parts. See, so all the world, this life is just a play, just staged on a stage. um, and every man has so many parts. So finally, Shakespeare today, because of all the things that we said, is still important, because the themes he talked about, the nature of human life, is still a new theme in literature. Um, and the topics he talked about, the life, death, revenge, race, all everything is still relevant to this very day. Um, the final thing I want to say in this lecture is that people, especially at that time, when started losing their faith, or not faith, but religion started to take less importance. So you might be still religious, but religion is no longer giving you all the answers, because there is science, there is literature, there is everything. So people went to the theaters, and to this very day, people go to literature to find answers. But what literature actually makes is that it gives more questions. It does not give answers, it gives more questions. It tells people to think in this direction or that direction. So, um, especially Shakespeare, he raises more questions than he gives answers. And all of his questions, to be or not to be, all of them are still relevant to this very day. All of them are still topics that we discuss until today. uh, Now this is our lecture. I know it is a long literature, a long lecture full of information and the new things. I know this, uh, but it is, I hope it was an entertaining one, that you enjoyed it. Now, remember, we said that we have two assignments this semester, each one for 5 marks, which means they have 10 marks. So, this is our first assignment for this semester. Write about two of these. So, we have three topics, write about two of them. Each one, write a long paragraph for each, a long paragraph. Um, you studied now, you're studying now in writing one, academic writing one, how to write a paragraph, the topic sentence, the supporting ideas, supporting sentences. You studied this, so I want you to write a long paragraph. For like, pick two of these topics and write a long paragraph for each one. Now, when I say a long paragraph, I mean don't write short paragraphs, 3 lines or 4 lines. Make them a little bit longer, but not a page. Like, you know, uh, it's not about how many lines, it's about the ideas. Put important ideas. Let me read and say, okay, there's an idea, he's saying something, and make it an academic paragraph. um, a topic sentence again, and supporting ideas, supporting sentences. The first question: how can literature be a means of resistance? How can literature be? Um, we studied literature. We studied how people use literature, and so how can we Palestinians? How literature generally can be a means of resistance, either here in Palestine or in other uh, places in the world. The second question: how can Shakespeare be important for Palestine? How can we Palestinians see some people when they read The Merchant of Venice, they see how Shylock resemble us, how he's one of us. How we, all of us are Shylocks in a way or another, discriminated against. People discriminate. Um, we get discriminated against because of our religions, because of our colors, okay? And also still Othello the same way, the Tempest. So how can Shakespeare be important? How can reading Shakespeare be important for Palestine, for us? And then lastly, we said how Shakespeare portrayed the English kings in so many different ways. And the question is, can literature, in this case, be a tool for political change? Can we write literature to make revolutions, to start revolutions, or to help the revolutions, or to criticize the political leaders, to criticize the kings, to criticize the presidents, the leaders here and there, the politicians. Okay, so pick two of these three questions and answer them in one paragraph. And this is our first assignment. So Today's discussion for this lecture: why is Shakespeare still popular 400 years after his death? Again, write a word, a sentence, or two sentences to answer this discussion on the Facebook group. Thank you. I know, again, it is a long lecture, but it is an important one, and I hope it was an entertaining and full of new, interesting ideas and interesting texts. See you next time, inshallah.